What's good, Des Moines? Welcome to another episode of Invitation by Invictus. Today, my special guest is Nick Kuhn of the Hall and the Justice League of Food. So, backstory with Nick is I basically walked into the hall unannounced, 2 years ago?
2 years? Yeah.
2 years. And I said, is the owner or the manager around? And he's like, well, I'm the owner. What can I help you with? And I told him who I was and the company that I was just starting, and I wanted to see if I can do your video work. And you're like, I'll give you 90 seconds or a couple of minutes or something like that. And we actually ended up talking for like an hour and a half. And he told me the story of the hall and how this nonprofit was starting called the Justice League of Food, and his background and his backstory. And I would probably say within 30 minutes, I was like, I'm in. Tell me what you need from me. I'll make it happen. Because I think now people know, because we've told the story, the hall was created to sustain this nonprofit. And I was like, I want in. And of course, Nick was like, well, you know, you're like the fourth person to come to me for video work. And I was like, hopefully I'm the last. So we had this conversation. And I came back, he told me, come back in a week, and we made arrangements, and I had to meet your wife. I met Lynn, and I didn't realize that I had to basically try out in front of Lynn and get her approval. So we had another 2-hour meeting over it, and then a couple of weeks later, you're like, okay, let's roll. Let me see what you got. And we just started creating all this content for the Hall and the Justice League of Food. And somewhere in between it, because of the work that we were doing for the Justice League of Food, it basically catapulted the need for nonprofit storytelling. So it actually opened the doors for other nonprofits that they needed the creative story work or whatever, that I partnered with 5 other nonprofits that year and did their work. Well, Invictus did their work for free. And, you know, it's all attributed to the Justice League of Food. So, and since then, you know, we've just been kind of rolling. So for the people, for the viewer that does not understand what the hall is or who Nick Kuhn is, can you give us a Cliff Note version of Nick Kuhn, where you kind of came from and how we got here?
Yeah, well, let's we'll focus on the hall.
Okay.
And the model that we've created. So the hall is just a big German beer hall. It's
right.
A food and beverage hall, basically, is what we call it. And it was a new concept for Des Moines. We built that almost 3.5 years ago. But that we didn't build it so that we could make a lot of money.
Yeah.
we built it to make money, but that was so that we could fund this nonprofit idea we had called the Justice League of Food. And the backstory of that, it really was just, in my food truck days, when I was involved in that industry, we had gotten engaged with the homeless population
right.
here in Des Moines, and we recognized a real need. And that need was, we need to get these people jobs so that they can get themselves out of their situation.
Right.
And so we built the hall as a financial engine, so to speak, to fund this nonprofit, which also has a financial engine, which is food sales into the hall.
Right.
And then the last piece of it is a relationship with government. And so it was the nonprofit that developed a relationship with Polk County, and the county ended up helping fund the kitchen.
Correct.
So that we could prepare community meals. So it's a Meals on Wheels program of sorts, except community meals or bulk meals.
Right.
And so that's the business model and the relationship that we set up, was
right.
a for-profit, nonprofit, governmental relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Lynn told me this just this morning, the 3-legged stool.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, which is unique. It's very unique for for-profit, nonprofit, and government to work at a scale that we are.
Correct.
Normally, those relationships happen at a much larger scale,
right.
called public-private partnerships. But this is just
yeah.
a miniature version of it.
Right.
And hopefully we've inspired others to, look at a similar arrangement.
Well, haven't other like cities or organizations reached out to you and ask, for some insight on your model.
Yeah, nonprofits. We've had nonprofits approach us about how about what we did and how we did it.
Right.
And the how is the important part, the execution. We've had other for-profit entities. The latest one down in Mississippi, of all places, and brought me down there to talk about a similar concept of a food and beverage hall, nonprofit kitchen, and a relationship with local government.
Right.
So yeah, it's cool. I mean, it's we're blessed.
Yeah.
We're blessed to be a part of all of this.
Right. So anybody that's been to the hall, and if you don't know this, 90% of all food sales inside the hall goes to the Justice League of Food to sustain that nonprofit.
Yeah, it's actually 100%.
Oh, it's 100 now.
100% now.
100%.
Pre-COVID, it was literally 10%.
Right.
And then the pandemic had a weird effect on us in a good way, where it caused us to pivot, and we were able to pivot so much that now 100% of food sales go directly to
Right.
the nonprofit,
Right.
which is a massive swing
Yeah.
in terms of our revenues.
Yeah.
So,
All the food inside the hall is created by the kids inside of the JLF program.
correct.
It used to be food trucks, but now it is the commercial kitchen that
Yep.
is ran by the Justice League of Food.
Yep, and when we say the kids, those are students. So we
Right.
recruit from youth shelters, and we offer them a 2-year training program in the
Culinary
kitchen.
program, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just actually, it's not so much a culinary program. It's culinary life skills,
Yeah.
day-to-day functions.
Cooking's the easy part.
Yeah.
Yeah, the life skills have been the biggest challenge.
Right.
No doubt.
So the hall was created to sustain this nonprofit, and then people that come in there, they can buy food, they can buy drink, they can go sit in the beer gardens. I mean, your capacity pre-COVID was like 300 and something people, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, total capacity over 400.
Yeah. Right.
It's been a shadow of that since COVID, but
Right.
it'll come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think people now are, now that there's a vaccine available, and then more people have come down with COVID since then, I think you'll start seeing, hopefully you'll see that uptick to where
Yeah.
people are a bit more comfortable going out.
Yeah,
now.
we're actually starting to see that. I mean, the last 3 months have been awful. I mean, the worst that we've ever seen it. Summer last year was good. But now what we're seeing is more and more people that are coming in have recovered from COVID.
Correct.
So their comfort level is through the roof.
Yeah.
In fact, it almost seems like COVID doesn't exist on Fridays and Saturdays.
Yeah.
But we are starting to slowly see, and that's really just a function of comfort.
Correct.
If you got antibodies or you got the vaccine, you're now more comfortable.
Right. Are you having live music still every Friday and Saturday night?
We put a pin in that. It is starting again the
Okay.
1st of February.
Okay.
Actually, the end of January. But yeah,
Okay.
it was business got to the point even on weekends where we ended up laying off 98% of our staff.
Correct.
And we put a halt to all miscellaneous or expenses that were unnecessary, bands being one of them.
Yeah.
But our plan was end of January we'd start bringing that all back.
Okay.
And we'll do it slowly.
Right, and then you can check out who's playing at the hall, live at the hall, on their Facebook page for sure, because they do a really good job of listing people that are going to be there, and
Yep.
then as well as whatever artists I know tags that they're going to be at the hall as well.
Oh,
So,
yeah. Yeah, and we'll website second. I'm the one that updates it. I'm not the best at it, but Facebook is always updated.
Yes,
It's
Facebook
current.
always is. So let's kind of talk about Nick Kuhn pre-hall, because you didn't come from a food and beverage background. You were a civil engineer, correct?
Yep.
And you had your own firm.
Yep.
And the only reason why I know this is because I've been in, speeches where you've talked to large audiences and you've told your stories. This is the only reason why I know these things, because I've spent a lot of time with Nick and Lynn Kuhn.
Yeah.
So I kind of know these
Well,
backstories.
it's an interesting story. I spent 21 years of my career as a civil engineer, and the last half of it just running companies.
Right.
And I just got tired of it. I mean, I was running a very large engineering company.
Right.
I couldn't take it anymore. And I needed a change. And I was at the ripe old age of 46. And I literally just went home one day and told my wife, I'm done.
Yeah.
I am done, with no plan. And then I had an opportunity to buy a bar,
Right. Which is the beer house.
which is the beer house. And don't ever do that. If I can give anyone ever advice, don't buy one of them.
Why?
They are high risk. They're a lot of work, and it's there's just easier ways
Okay.
to make a living. Um, yeah, so I did something crazy. I bought a bar, and that was a mistake. Which, because I realized it was a mistake, it forced me to not just be a passive owner.
Yeah, bar owner anymore.
I needed to learn the business if we
Correct.
were going to survive.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's a good thing. I also built a food truck
Okay.
because I saw the movie Chef. I was inspired.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm like, well, that just would be awesome. It'd be a lot of fun to build a food truck.
Okay.
It's more fun. It's a lot of work, though, too. So
Yeah.
put a little more research into it than the movie Chef would be my advice. But not only did I do that, but 6 months after all of that started, which was within, I left my career in May of 2015.
Right.
Had bought the bar in March. Food truck was built by June of that year, and then by August of that year, I became president of the Food Truck Association.
Right. Correct.
So I went from an industry that is about as far removed from restaurants as it could possibly be,
Yeah.
and by my own doing, got thrust into not only the food and beverage industry, but to the top of the burgeoning food truck industry, which
Right.
back then, there was no food truck industry. It was just a
It-
nice to have and a neat to
Yeah.
have.
Because the food truck laws hadn't passed yet at that time.
Yeah, they were illegal, but the city of Des Moines had started a pilot program for 6 months.
Okay.
And I came in at about month 5.
Okay.
And so the first thing I had to do was throw a big party. And I did. I threw it down to Sculpture Park, 23 food trucks, about 12,000 people showed up for that party. And it
Right.
was all in an effort to prove to the city of Des Moines that food trucks were cool and they were a viable and necessary part of
Yeah.
pop culture here in the metro.
Right.
And it was such a hit that the city of Des Moines passed the final ordinances to legalize food trucks.
Correct.
And then I spent the next 2 years really just changing the rest of the laws in the metro. So they were legal everywhere. And during that time is when I had exposure to our homeless community.
Correct.
And that came from the food truck party that I threw. And I literally just hired 10 residents of Central Iowa shelters to help us clean up and move food
Yeah.
around. And that was my first exposure, and it was a particular encounter with one young man that changed my whole perspective
Right.
on what I really need to be doing in this world.
Right.
And food trucks and restaurants, while I set out for that to be the goal, those things ended up being tools, more or less, for what I really needed to do, which was help our community out and help some folks get off the streets and become productive members of society.
Right.
So that's the short version of
Yeah.
all of it. But
Well, it was kind of like you had your light bulb moment that weekend.
An aha moment for sure. A lot of aha moments, which is a very long story. But my path became very clear. And
Right.
when I left my career, I had no idea what I was going to do. And so I jumped into probably the riskiest business that you can possibly jump into.
Yeah.
And
Said no one ever, right?
within a few months, I realized I made a terrible mistake, and I had to suck it up and learn the trade. And once I did that, then that gave me the exposure and the tools to do what we're doing today.
Yeah. I think if anything, you've learned how to pivot and pivot very quickly. So you
Yeah.
were pivoting before a thing called COVID-19 happened.
Oh yeah,
'Cause,
yeah.
you know-
It's funny with the hall. We were contactless 3.5 years ago.
Yeah.
Before contactless was even a word.
Correct.
Part of our vocabulary. And so pivoting this time when COVID hit wasn't much of a pivot. We just had to flip a few switches
Right.
up in our computer room, and that was our pivot.
Yeah.
And we were very fortunate. And it was just luck. But it was a good idea 3.5 years ago. Might have been a little ahead of its time,
Yeah.
but it has certainly paid off for us today.
Correct.
Because a lot of our industry, the food and beverage industry, had to make that pivot, and that's not a pivot that you make overnight.
Correct.
It takes a lot of time and energy and money.
Yeah, you guys had already established your website. You had established the app.
Correct.
All you had to do is just, do a couple of things to help support the app.
Yep. Yeah, and then really, it was when the state of Iowa permanently changed the law that allowed online sales of alcohol.
Correct.
When that went into effect, we knew exactly.
It was like gangbusters.
Yeah. It was a no-brainer. We just had,
Yeah.
because now we could sell alcohol on our app,
Mm-hmm.
which is technically an online sale, which is now legal.
Right.
And we were ahead of the curve all of last year because we were sitting there ready to go.
Yeah, you had a established app. All you had to do was download it, and then you just go in there, order it, come pick it up, and
Yeah.
you get your, your beer crawler or whatever that you want, your growler, to go, or
Drink it there or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny, when the lockdown happened, like within the first week of lockdown, I called the state of Iowa up to ask them if we were allowed to do this. And they didn't even hesitate. They said, nope, it's against the law.
Yeah.
And then 3 months later, they changed the law.
Yeah.
It's like, so it's again, it's luck. I use the word serendipity. There's like a whole lot of it in our lives these days. My wife uses the word divine intervention. Call it what you will.
Yeah.
Being in the right place at the right time.
Correct.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But there's a lot of that goes on.
Right.
So.
Well, it actually helped your work. It helped the workforce at least a little to where, because when everything opened back up, you guys had individual tags built into each of the tables. So all you had to do is just order it from your app, and then the beer runner runs your beer out to, A26.
Yeah. Yeah. So the one of the casualties of COVID-19 was technology replaced our servers.
Yeah, humans.
And that's not a good thing.
No.
But it was an absolutely necessary thing for us to weather the storm.
Yeah.
And now that we've done it and we've mastered it, unfortunately, on the people side of the equation, a lot of those jobs are never coming back for us. On the business side of things, our labor costs are
really low.
as low as we can go.
Yeah.
And everything is automated. We spent all of last year just fine-tuning the automation of all of our systems and processes. Again, because we couldn't afford to have the army of people we had before, so
Correct.
we really had to pivot hard to use and leverage technology a lot more.
Yeah.
The experience now is you sit down, there's a little tag on the table, grab your phone. You can either use an app or just scan a QR code, go right to our website and order online, and put that tag number in, and we will deliver your drinks right to you.
Right.
You don't have to talk to anybody. You don't have to touch a credit card. Don't touch money.
Yeah.
All of those things were necessary to help mitigate the risk of COVID-19.
Right.
Unfortunately, though, again, at the expense of people.
Yeah.
And that's just a casualty that we'll all have to do it. And it's not just us. A lot of companies have realized that they don't need the overhead that they once had.
Right.
And so if there's any good that came out of this pandemic, it made a whole lot of us rethink our business models.
Correct.
And how to maintain high quality service and product without all the expense. And that's a good thing overall.
Right.
It's a good thing overall. But again, there's a lot of people looking for work now because of it.
Yeah. Well, it's just come down to, in the food industry, what are your two highest costs, overheads, right? Labor and food cost, right?
Yep.
So
and rent.
And rent.
Yeah.
That's those three things, people don't realize, it's when you don't have people coming through your doors, those are the reasons why people have to shut their businesses down, because they can't sustain all three or one of those three.
Yep.
So it's, it's like, where do you find the balance? And then, unfortunately, you got to find that necessary evil.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one of those expenses is constant, right? That's rent. It is what it is. Everything else is really a function of butts and seats.
Right.
The more butts and seats, the more people you have,
Yeah.
the more product you're buying.
Correct.
And when we don't have those butts and seats, they're the only two places that we can cut back.
Yeah.
And really, there's only one place to cut back, and it's on the labor side of things, because the food is truly a function of the button in the seat.
Correct.
Where the labor side, I mean, it's less, it's tied less to the butts and seats, so it's the first place that we must cut, and that's unfortunate. I mean, the day is going to come someday. It's already here, where robots will be serving your food and your drinks. Right?
Yeah.
You go to Japan, you'll find all kinds of places where a robot is literally delivering a drink to your table.
Terminator.
Yeah, and that, I think, will be it'll be an efficient thing, but it won't be a good thing.
Right.
Even in the kitchen, you got robots that can make burgers now.
Yeah.
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 So, yeah, this pandemic has really exposed a weird and new side of doing things.
Yeah.
And
How fast you can shift or pivot, and then how fast you can implement that pivot, and then, and it's just a constant state of pivoting.
It is, and it has been. It's been a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Schizophrenic is the best term that I've actually ever heard in terms of, this experience called the pandemic. But it'll settle down, and when it does settle down, I do believe there will be a renaissance.
Yes, I agree.
There will be a renaissance. I mean, the world will be partying, probably not in a way that they haven't since the end of World War II.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where the whole world is just elated.
Yes.
At the current state of affairs.
I mean, I think it's safe to say that there are people that are just waiting, for everything to just. There really won't be a new, we won't go back to being normal, right? Because there's this new norm.
Right.
So it's about, shifting with that, and then making accommodations inside of that, and then just moving forward.
Right.
So there'll be some speed bumps along the way, because, when you have to go through another change, some people, they change quickly, and some are very slow.
Yeah.
So it's just.
Yeah, you'll see the innovators out there are going to do very, very well, because they did do well. There was so much innovation during the pandemic that they crushed it during the pandemic, which means they will crush it after it's over.
Yeah.
Those who sit around just truly hoping that the world goes back to the way it used to be, they probably won't survive.
That's not going to happen.
No, it won't happen. So there's folks out there in business that just won't make it.
Yeah.
Because
unfortunately,
the inability to pivot.
Right.
And the false hope of going back to normal. I mean, it's a new normal, and it's permanent.
Yeah, it's not going away.
No. So, yeah, it's all good, though. Innovation is a good thing.
Right. Yeah, I think you guys have definitely done that. I mean, I always get these, random phone calls or text messages from the Kuhns like, hey, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm sitting in my office. They're like, what do you think of this video?
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know. Tell me more about this. And I ended up going out like on a Saturday afternoon, and they're like, we want to make this video where we're just going to, there needs to be laughter in the world. And I was like, okay, explain. And so the concept of the hall monitor came up. And I was like, you really want to do this? I was like, some people are probably going to be upset, and they're just like, we need to laugh.
Yeah.
We just need to laugh, and just it needs to be lighthearted. So I was like, okay, I'm in. And we shot it on a Monday, and then it was out by Tuesday afternoon, and it actually did really well. So you can always check out the hall monitor, where this proclamation came out back. Was it August?
That was
the August proclamations, and it's about 2 minutes, but it's about the funniest thing I've ever seen you do, because it's just kind of like, it's taking all those crazy ideas out of Nick Kuhn's head and then bringing them to life.
Yeah, well, that was a lot of fun, and that was really all born out of frustration.
Yeah.
With the state of Iowa in particular.
Well, being a restaurant owner and
the regulations that were coming out that made no sense.
Yeah.
So the way I look at the world, I can either curl up in the fetal position and just cry.
Yeah.
or I can laugh.
Right.
And so we started a campaign of poking the bear, what we called it internally, and then we did another one after that.
Yep.
But everything we did was, it's not that we wanted to piss off our government,
No.
but we wanted to draw attention to some of the schizophrenia
Correct.
that, from our perspective, as the redheaded stepchild of business.
Right.
Because, every bar and restaurant in this country has been targeted by government regulations.
Yeah.
And there's not a whole lot of data that supports it. So, we have decisions being made that negatively impact our businesses without any real science.
Correct.
A lot of emotion.
Yeah.
And, I'm an engineer.
Right.
So emotion isn't a strong suit for me.
Right.
But I just wanted to have a little fun, which we did. I'd say 98% of the
98% were
folks that saw it had an appreciation for
Yeah.
for the humor, and not only the humor but the underlying message that was behind it. And yeah, we pissed a few people off. But you know what? Who cares? There's always going to be people who don't like what you're doing.
Exactly. Well, it's just how I looked at it from a creative standpoint is what Invictus did with the hall wasn't anything different than what the guys in New York on Saturday Night Live
Correct.
do. There wasn't any difference.
Yeah.
We just did it on a local scale instead of a national scale.
Yeah, it's called
right?
satire.
Yeah. So you can check out The Whistleblower, which is the latest one that came out. That was made back in, was that December? No, that was that was like November.
That was November.
November, The Whistleblower. I took my beefy intern Hunter and made him sound like the Alpha Doberman from Up, where he's like, "Hey guys."
Yeah.
I took him. We purposely did that, and then and again, Nick was like, "This is what we're gonna do," and I wasn't there, but when I saw it in post, I was like, Nick really laid on the floor like he got a dart in his groin. They're like, "Yeah," and I was like, "This is ridiculous."
Yeah, that was funny. But
Yep, there you go, Nick Kuhn, and how to navigate through the pandemic for him.
yeah,
So
yeah, just go with the flow.
that's generally what you've been doing.
Yeah.
Go with the flow, pivot, go with the flow some more, pivot again,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah. Well, you got to be flexible, and this pandemic reminded me of my inflexibility pre-COVID.
You really think so?
I think so. We were creative, yes, but we're no different than anybody else. We kind of got set in our ways,
Okay.
and I tell you what, and this coming from me in the hall, and we were known for innovation.
Correct.
And I'm even here to admit that, I might have been a little set in my ways. This pandemic has certainly liberated
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
in terms of the way that I think.
Now?
Yeah. Because I didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
Sink or swim.
So there was some good that came out of this.
Yeah, I think ultimately there was good.
Yeah.
It was good. Painful, but good. And we're still alive, knock on wood, we're thankful for that.
Yeah.
But from a business perspective, it turned out to be a good thing. And I think a lot of businesses came to the same realization.
True.
A lot of businesses were emboldened to try the things that they were always wanting to try, but always feared trying.
And they had no choice now.
They had no choice. And the hall, I wanted to sell beer on that app 3 years ago and not have servers. I mean, our original business plan, we didn't have servers.
That's true. Yeah.
The original business
Yes.
plan of the hall, there were no servers. It was this vision of, believe it or not, this pandemic era of service.
Mm-hmm.
And when the lockdown happened, it's like, okay, well, now we have no choice. So the fear went away,
Yeah.
and we just did.
You just walked right into it.
We were
Full force.
It made us fearless.
Yeah, it really did.
It really did, and I think it made a lot of people and companies fearless, because when death is your only option, you either go down this path and try something, or you die as a business.
Yeah.
Well, death ain't a very good option.
Nope. Nope. I remember just going to see you every couple weeks, like 2 or 3 weeks, and it's like, you know, I like, you know, I've told people, like, you know, you've kind of become a good mentor for me, and I'm just kind of like, I bounce these crazy ideas off of you, and you're like, hey, what do you think of this? And I was like, holy shit, you're right. So yeah, we would have these, like, I guess you could call them strategic sessions without even strategic sessions, and just share, you know, a thing of Brussels sprouts and just like, what do you think of this? Oh, how about this?
Well, it's we all can get so bogged down in the day to day, where we get to the point where we cannot see the forest from the trees.
Right.
And
You think that was pre-COVID, and now
pre-COVID.
Okay.
Yeah. And now, because a lot of us have been forced
yeah,
to see that forest, it causes us, and not only that, but it gave us the time.
it did.
The lockdown, believe it or not, as painful as it was, because it was one of the best times of the year, business-wise, was taken away from us.
Yeah.
It provided us time to think,
Mm-hmm.
and just that time alone was valuable,
Mm-hmm.
because we just get so busy doing,
Yeah. You forget everything else.
and you forget everything else, and especially for small business, because
Yeah.
we have to wear every hat in the house. You know that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what? And I mean, I had to clean a toilet the other day. I pay people to do that, but I had to clean a toilet. But we get so bogged down that we don't think about our businesses. And
All the aspects of it.
yeah, and then when business is going well, there's a false sense of complacency. Well, it's not false. It is complacency that can set in.
Yeah, and
that's real.
complacency kills you.
It is. It'll kill business. So again, the pandemic forced us to pause,
Yeah.
and not only in that moment, but permanently. We must all take the time to pause and think about what we're doing.
Yeah.
And if it's not working, check your pride in at the door. You know, because
Yeah.
we had a lot of pride in the hall,
Mm-hmm.
and boy, I had to check that pride in at the door to just pivot.
Yeah.
And you know, there's no saying, nothing kills profitability quicker than pride.
Okay.
So when things are going well,
Yes.
that is when where I've landed is that when everything's going well is the best time for you to sit down and say, okay,
What's next?
what's next?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's the most painful time because we're also the busiest,
Yes.
but we must force ourselves to do that.
So let's talk about the busy time that's coming up, because we got to wrap up,
Yeah.
because we went down the COVID path.
I know, that COVID rabbit hole.
Yeah. Whoop. Busy time. We have the St. Patrick's Day at the Hall coming up March 17th.
Yep.
Starts at 11, right? And then we plan on having live bands.
January, yeah. So St. Patty's Day is probably the first big event that we'll
Yeah,
be doing, which
okay.
is ironic because that was the first one taken away from us.
Yeah, that was like the next day.
Yeah. It was the day, St. Patty's
Was
Day.
it?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
March 17th.
Yeah, you had to shut down by noon.
We had to shut down by noon.
Yes.
And we had spent a bunch of money getting ready for St. Patty's Day.
Yeah, because it's pretty big at the hall.
It's pretty big. Yeah, and that. So we're going to do it again. We don't think it'll be as big, obviously, because it's only a couple months from now. But live music.
Okay.
We'll do.
Costume contests.
Well, always. We
Yeah.
like our costume contests.
Yeah.
And we'll have beer specials. We'll have some crazy food going again.
Okay.
But
And the beer garden will be open this year.
yeah, if the weather is decent enough, we'll get all the heaters out there,
'Kay.
so that folks can sit out there if they're more comfortable. It will not be back to normal. I know that. I'm not naive.
Yeah.
But we're going to give it the old college try
Why not?
and have a little fun. And it would be ideal for that to be a wonderful day to celebrate the 1 year anniversary of this mess starting.
The pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here in the state of
Yeah,
Iowa.
come full force.
So that's another good one. We got a big one planned in June. It's a steer roast.
Yes.
So that's another crazy idea we had is, you got folks out there roasting whole pigs and things like that.
Yeah.
We're going to do a whole cow.
Yes.
Why? Because No one's done it here
Yeah,
before.
because we can.
Because we can. And it would be fun.
I remember when you came to me last summer, because this is one of our brainstorming sessions. This is what we're going to be doing. And I was like, for real? And he's like, yeah, we're just going to be roasting it on the beer garden for 24 hours. And why not? Because we haven't done it. And I was like, okay, let me know. I'll be there.
Yeah, it'll be that one I'm looking forward to. Again, because no one's done it, but it's about community.
Correct.
Because it's going to take a hell of a lot of people to eat a whole cow.
For sure. Yeah.
It's going to take a few people to babysit the damn thing for
That too.
24 hours,
Yep.
which we'll be selling tickets for that opportunity.
And then the proceeds go to the JLF.
Yep, anything related to food,
Goes to the JLF.
100%.
And then we start the Culinary superhero dinners again.
Yep, that's another great fundraiser we do. We bring in some of the best chefs in the Midwest. and
Right.
Sell tickets for $100 and come in, meet the chef, meet the kids. So guest chefs come in and work with our students.
Correct.
And teach them how to make some high-fi meals.
It's a four-course meal?
3-course.
3-course meal?
Yeah, but it always turned out to be one of the best things you ever ate in your entire
Yeah.
life. Got a Valentine's Day, a tomahawk dinner for 2.
Okay.
So these are like 42-ounce ribeyes that we're going to deep fat fry.
For real?
Yeah,
That's for Valentine's Day.
that's Valentine's Day.
Okay.
Yeah, we call it pitchfork fondue. So
Yes.
we got this big cast iron cauldron.
Yeah. We did that before.
Yeah.
That was
we
like-
did it before with ribeyes. We did
Yeah.
it with a porchetta roast. It is amazing what you can do with a big cast iron pot and a bunch
Right.
of oil and
Yeah.
fire. But again, the food is excellent at the hall, but when we start doing the crazy things that we do with food, that life-changing is the best description I've
Correct. Yes. I would
heard.
agree.
So we're going to continue to do that, and those all end up being little mini fundraisers for the nonprofit.
Right.
And so we're a little different from a lot of nonprofits. We don't do big annual galas and things like that.
No.
We just do let's do some fun stuff and do it often
Yes. Inside the hall.
inside the hall.
So coming up, we have the Super Bowl,
Mm-hmm.
and then Super Bowl into the tomahawk dinner
Mm-hmm.
for Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, and then the steer roast.
Yep.
And then we'll have Summerfest.
Summerfest, yeah.
Right.
One of 2 beer festivals that we do every year.
Right.
We used to call it Salvator Fest,
Right.
but that was always done right around
The end of April.
end of April,
Yeah.
and it depends on when Lent is.
Right.
So it could be in March, and it was just too close to St. Patty's Day.
Yeah.
So we do Summerfest now, and it works out better because we can use the patio.
Correct.
And we did it last year, and I was amazed at how many people showed up for that
Yeah.
thing during a pandemic.
Yeah.
I went and got a COVID test, a few days afterwards.
Make
That's
sure.
how many. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
how many people showed up. But we'll do that again, and hopefully by June, we've got a lot of this behind us.
Yeah.
In terms of vaccinations
Correct.
and antibodies and such.
Yes.
So yeah, a lot of good things. We're just starting to slowly get back
Yeah.
into what we have been known for doing. I
Right.
mean, we do a lot of eclectic events,
You do.
and we got one coming up. It's called Beer and Hymns.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's back on the schedule.
Okay.
So people come in and sing church hymns and drink beer like the world's coming to an end.
Correct. Yes. And that's 4 times a year.
4 times a year, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's inspiring, and it can be a little churchy, but who cares? Everybody's drunk, so it's like better than church because you can't drink in church.
Right, right. Well, you couldn't. Well, the Catholic Church used to serve Mad Dog 2020 as communion wine.
You
so
could, but
You could, but
this is just a lot more fun.
yeah. And then are we still doing trivia and bingo?
Yeah, trivia we've moved to Thursdays right now, just
Okay.
as a limited hours. It's normally on Tuesdays.
Okay.
I'm liking Thursdays. It seems to be working out. Bingo, which is on Monday nights, we put a pin in that, probably until March 1st.
Okay.
And again, it's just bingo is one of those games where a lot of people congregate.
They do.
Well,
Well, you get free. Well, you can win free drinks.
yeah, free drinks and trinkets from the breweries, and
Yeah.
it's just fun. It's a good family game. It's mindless.
Yeah.
Yeah, I sit there with a dabber and
I dig it. I mean, I've got like 4 bingo cards in front of me, and I'm like, pop, 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 pop,
Yeah.
pop, pop.
Yeah.
So
It's been that one was a real hit, but it took a hit with the pandemic.
Right.
It's because I mean, on Monday nights we used to get 300 people in
yes,
just to play bingo.
just to play bingo and hang out. And it wasn't adults; it was kids too.
Kids,
They would
too.
come eat and
Yeah.
play bingo and then leave.
Yeah, you'd have 3 or 4 generations of family showing up
playing there.
to play.
Yeah,
And that's why we did it.
Yeah.
We wanted to, well, really, it was just from a fond memory as a child. We did a video on that, too, on bingo.
we did.
It really just started from me screwing around as a kid, messing with all the old people playing bingo with all my
yeah.
cousins.
Yeah, me too. I used to want to take out all the old ladies that would win blackout.
Yeah. Again, so many things that we do, it's a perfect segue, so many things that we do at the hall come from childhood experiences.
Yeah, truly.
Which were funny.
Yeah,
And a lot of what we do, you know, admittedly is because it makes me laugh. But I figure if it makes me laugh, it's going to make a whole bunch of other people
right.
laugh. I've got
Yeah.
a little pride in my sense of humor.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, if you haven't seen The Whistleblower, Nick Kuhn's laying on the floor acting like a dart's in his groin. So, I mean, God just doesn't care. So.
Yeah. That was the bathroom floor, too.
Yeah. You can see the latrine in the background, so.
Yeah, that was fun. Well, Invictus has really helped us a lot with
Yeah.
our notoriety, so to speak.
Well, I mean, we just took everything that, all those ideas in your head, and we just made them come to life.
Yeah.
And you can see all of the videos that we've made on the big screen, on one of the big screens on the hall. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's all I did for you, is just become your creative partner in that aspect.
To this day, I'll just sit and stare at those videos. It's just fun because the videos tell the story of
everything.
everything.
Yes.
And whether it be the Justice League of Food or the hall or the relationship between the two, or the government that has been involved with us.
Yes.
I mean, there's a good story being told.
Yes.
And we did such a shitty job telling that story up until we started doing the videos.
Correct. Well, no, I wouldn't say it was shitty. It was just so much. So it was like, how do we take all of that and then put it in a visual space so that people really understand
Right.
it?
We weren't getting the exposure.
Yeah.
But I'll say one thing: these videos have done well for us with the nonprofit in terms of helping us fundraise, because it does tell a story. In terms of coming to the hall and getting people into the hall, because a lot of new people have just heard. They hear little rumors about we do this, we do that.
Correct.
But those videos really do a great job of telling the story. And now what we're finding is, because of the story, that people are wanting to come back. They're
Yeah.
wanting to support.
Yes.
Now that they know that, if I eat something, wow, I'm helping the homeless community. I'm helping the community that is hungry,
Yeah.
and that's a good thing. It's a really excellent thing, by the way.
Yeah.
And not only, and it affects every age group. If
Yes,
you think
it
about
does.
it.
Yeah.
We have a lot of older folks come in because of what we do, and we have a lot of younger folks coming in because of what we do.
Right.
I mean, that's another thing that I've realized in business is that, business cannot be solely about making money. There must be a cause that people can rally behind.
Yes.
Money will be an outcome, but it's not the thing to focus on.
Right.
We just focus on doing the right thing.
Yeah. What's the mission?
Yeah.
And the mission is to help people.
The mission's to help,
Yeah.
and the money just kind of takes care of itself,
Right.
which is good.
Yeah. Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
So, so basically, we've just spent the last hour. Well, for the viewer that doesn't realize, Nick and Lynn have been Invictus's probably first clients. Like,
Nice.
I mean, as far as like when we walked fully into the video production world. So, in the 2 years that we've been working with you, I mean, this is basically the entire story of
It was
it.
a pretty valuable cold call.
Yeah. If I was to give a presentation, this is how I'd be like, cold calling is really important. I tell people the only reason why I wanted to go into the hall is because I drive a 4Runner and I wanted to do donuts in your parking lot. And against, better judgment, I was like, probably not a good idea. So I'll just walk in here and see what's going on.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the fact that I even gave you any time was amazing because
Yeah.
I have a policy. I don't take walk-ins.
No, you don't.
I don't take any walk-ins. I'm too damn busy.
Yeah, I got lucky in that aspect.
I think I'll give you
So.
90 seconds, and yeah, it was. Spent quite a bit of time. But it just goes to show that you never know what's going to happen in this world.
Correct. Yeah.
And you take nothing for granted, and certainly don't burn bridges.
Yes.
But again, serendipity. I mean, there's a reason for everything.
Everything. Yes.
And I think there was a reason you walked in that day, other than wanting to burn donuts in the parking lot.
I sure did. And then next thing you know it, and then I ate your Brussels sprouts, and I was like, oh my God, these are so good.
Aren't they good?
Yeah, they were so delicious, and I was like, oh my God. That's why Abby and I just come back just to eat those.
Yeah.
When we can, we usually play cards and just and eat dinner there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the food's good. It's excellent. And now that the Justice League of Food has taken over 100% of the food, it's a lot more stable.
Correct.
So it's been a win-win all around.
Yeah.
So
again, if you want to check out the hall, all food sales benefits the Justice League of Food. If I was somebody that wants to be involved with the JLF, what's the best way to contact you? If I want to volunteer.
So the only cold caller walk-in I will take is if somebody wants to help.
Okay.
But if you do come in the hall, I got business cards there up at the host stand.
Yes.
If you'll catch me there almost every day of the week now,
Okay.
just because I have to be there. You can go to justiceleagueoffood.org.
Okay.
And there's a form you can fill out if you want to volunteer and help out. But most people just come in.
Do you have a need? What if you had to advertise for a need to help the JLF? What would it be today?
Oh, well, today it's a financial need today.
Okay.
More than ever, just because we're limited hours.
Yes.
And the one downside of the model is that the sustainability of the JLF is dependent upon its success in the hall.
Okay.
And the success of the hall. Well, there's not a whole lot we can do right now, but we're managing our costs the best that we can, and we've had to our kitchen staff, the students, we've reduced them to about half-time.
Right.
Best thing anybody can do is just come in and support.
Okay.
You don't even give us money. Come on in and eat something.
Yeah.
Going forward.
But they could donate on the website.
Yep. They can donate on the website. On the volunteer side of things, we're kind of putting the brakes on that just for obvious reasons.
Yes.
We're trying to limit the number of people that are coming into the kitchen.
Yeah.
So we've put a pin in that just due to COVID. But when this gets behind us, we'll need volunteers. We'll need volunteers to help us with community meals.
Okay.
We could use volunteers to help us with our fundraising dinners.
Okay.
If you're just helping us serve the food.
Yes.
To small groups for the fundraising dinners. We'll need volunteers to help us deliver community meals. And we've got one volunteer that handles that, but we've got no backup for him.
Right.
So there's all kinds of little things, and then when we get into life skills, anybody that's got some expertise
Yes.
in life skills, come on in and talk to us because we incorporate that into the curriculum.
Correct.
And this can be anything from right now. We've covered personal financial management.
Okay.
We brought in some experts to just
Yes.
teach these kids. Here's how you
Budget.
how you handle a checkbook.
Yeah.
Here's how you don't piss away your money.
Correct.
But things like that, and that's probably the bigger one that the biggest need we'll see going forward is that expertise
Okay.
to handle life skills, and they're really just conversations.
Yes.
It's nothing formal, but these kids need coaches and mentors, and nobody can be covering every topic. So
Right.
we feel it's better just to bring in experts.
Right.
So I'd say, like, the answer to that question is today. It's really just financial help to help us keep things going. But in the future, it's volunteerism.
Okay. Okay, again, Nick Kuhn, the Hall, and the Justice League of Food. You can check out all their information. We've scrolled it multiple times because this is what we do in our post. And that you can always find Nick generally after 12 at the Hall most days of the week. And then you can always reach out to Nick at thejusticeleagueoffood.org. That's your email address.
Yep.
I know because that's how I email him.
Yep.
And that check out the Justice League of Food website and as well as the Hall. You can download the app on Apple or the Google Play Store.
Yep.
You can get beer to go, which is amazing because you have 50 beers?
65.
65. There you go. 50 was when I first started with you guys.
Yep. It was 54.
Yeah. So up to 65 now. And that right now, if you can, please financially donate to the Justice League of Food to help out. And then sometime in the spring, probably like late March, April, you'll most likely start gearing back up for volunteers.
Yep. Yeah, it's going to be, we're looking forward to 2021. And we'll be there. We're not going anywhere.
Nope.
Again, it was said once before, this pandemic has created a lot of stability.
Yes.
For not only the Hall, but for the nonprofit.
Correct.
More importantly, the nonprofit, and which is kind of amazing.
Yes.
And counterintuitive, but you know what? Who are we to challenge it? We're just going to roll with the punches like we normally do.
We always do.
And we'll be there when this is all over.
Correct.
Yeah.
All right. Again, Nick Kuhn, the Justice League of Food, and the Hall. Check them out. And then Nick, most likely, I'd love for you to come back. This is actually the first time Nick has ever stepped foot into our office.
Yeah.
So, in 2 years. So
It's beautiful.
It's impressive. So it just goes to show how far our relationship has come. Because I'm always the one trying to track you down. So.
Yes, I can be hard to get a hold of.
Yes.
Get a hold of me through the Justice League of Food. That is my highest. I prioritize.
Yeah. Nick at thejusticeleagueoffood.org.
Yeah.
There you go.
.org.
Thanks, Nick. I appreciate you coming.
Yeah, thank you.